Every time I do that, Zoom has the little thing that's like, not hearing anything, turn up the volume. And I'll be like, I know what I'm doing. Shut up and stop raising your prices.
I'm the boss.
I'm in charge here. No, I don't want an AI companion. I never need it. I don't want it.
I don't want that.
I would pay these companies more money than any monthly service. I'd pay $1 more a month for all of them. They'd be like, never ask me if I want AI. I hate clicking X every 3 days. Please get it out of here.
Exactly.
Get it out of here.
I don't want Gemini to summarize my email.
I don't want Gemini to tell me that the best way to clean up the audio is to make sure I boil it for 17 minutes so that it comes out al dente. No. I never want that, ever.
We didn't ask for that. Yeah.
Welcome to the longest cold open of the newest Olympian. Sherry, put this in the beginning. People are going to be listening to it like, how long of that? What? What's going on? What is I? Am I in the middle of the episode? Oh! What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I am a 33-year-old man. First time I've had to say that one. He slowly inches towards death, ever closer to the doors of death. A 33-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid, but I read them as an adult because I was on a quest to determine if society had been sleeping on the Percy Jackson series. I said yes, and now I'm seeing if society has been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series. I am not on this quest alone, though. I am joined by someone who you know, you love, you've heard on the podcast, and you will hear on a future podcast project that we currently have in the works that we will dangle in front of you now and talk about at the end of this episode.
Ooh.
It's Sequoia Simone. Sequoia, how's it going?
It's going great. You know what I love being on this podcast? Because I love Percy Jackson so much, and I must tell you that something glorious has happened in my life due to you and this podcast and my exposure to Percy Jackson. You know how, like, people in your life will be like, oh, there's this thing you like. So on holidays, I get you things that are related to that thing.
Yeah, I had to officially put it out to Kelly's family at a certain point, like, no more Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
Even pre-J.K. Rowling being a publicly terrible person, it was just like, I have too many things. Like, it's my job. It's not my life. I don't need more Harry Potter stuff.
Right. This Christmas, I began receiving Percy Jackson stuff.
Okay. Now, on the flip, when you first enter that, it's fantastic.
It's great.
When you don't have the stuff, when you get oversaturated, it gets tricky.
That's when it gets
Because
wild.
then people have to really try to find it. And then you're getting weird branded things that you aren't using.
Yeah. You're like, actually, I don't need a 15th pen that's shaped like Riptide.
I don't need a Hogwarts beanie.
I don't need a Hogwarts beanie. I have 7.
I have 4 New York Knicks beanies that I wear. I don't need a Hogwarts beanie.
Exactly. It's more important to wear the,
I need it so that strangers in New York can go, oh, Jalen Brunson. Like, it's very important to me.
It's a piece of social clothing. Yeah.
But what Percy Jackson things have you been receiving?
I got an ornament.
Ooh.
And I got the newest book.
That's
in
fun.
the new series. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I believe, you don't have to correct me, but I believe that would be the Wrath of the Triple Goddess.
Yes. That is what I received. And so now I have like a hardback copy of one of the books. It's like new. And I was like, oh my gosh, fancy me.
So fantastic.
And it's there on my Percy Jackson shelf that I now have thanks to you and this podcast.
Let's go.
Full shelf.
That's great. It's fantastic. I obviously have many good things coming to me because of this podcast. I'm glad that it can extend out into the recurring guest universe, which is very fun.
Heck yeah.
And speaking of good things happening to Percy Jackson fans, as of recording right now, March 17th, Percy Jackson not only is coming out with season 2 December, at least not an official date, but the month of December, season 2 is dropping, confirmed for season 3 already. And on top of that, they said they're going to start production on season 3 before season 2 releases, which, at least according to Screen Rant's Liam Crowley, friend of the pod, that should set up the show to have an annual release schedule, which would be very cool.
I'm so on board.
Oh, and they won 8 Emmys. They won 8 Emmys at the Children and Family Emmys, which is super cool.
Which cannot be slept upon.
No, it can't. And now anytime I interview any of those people, I'm going to call them Emmy Award winning, whoever, which, gosh.
And you should. And they deserve it. And they truly deserve it. But yeah, it's the same thing where you're like, okay, they really do have to film this show. Like, children grow is what I have witnessed.
Right. Yes.
So they gotta get it in.
Yeah. It's funny because I've definitely seen a lot of people making the comments of like, oh man, like books 2 and 3 are only like a couple of weeks apart. They like really got to get on it. It's like, guys, it's a TV show. Like, it's going to be okay. Even if they look a little old.
Like,
we had Tobey Maguire pretending to be a high school senior in the 2001 Spider-Man movie. We're good. We're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
At least they didn't do what the Percy Jackson movies did, where they were just like, nah, they're all teenagers now. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, they're growing, whatever. But I would rather them make the best show than like really make sure that Walker looks young enough. Like, just make the good show. But it seems like they're making the show on the proper pace. It's very exciting. And what's also very exciting is us covering these 3 chapters of The Son of Neptune. Very excited to discuss it with you. Been a minute since you've been on the pod. It's now your whatever time on the pod, which means you get to answer this question, which is, if you had a riptide that was some inanimate object and then turned into a different inanimate object because you don't really need a sword usually in your day-to-day life, what would the smaller object and the bigger object be?
Yeah, this is a hard one for me because I was such a big fan of one of the hosts from Monster Donuts said earrings into headphones. And I was like, I have a really hard time not just saying that again, because that is the correct answer.
It is a really good answer.
But also the thing that infuriates me about New York weather a little bit is that like the jacket weather I want to exist doesn't exist. It's like so cold. And then all of a sudden you like need to be wearing a t-shirt outside or you're sweating.
Yeah,
and there's no in between.
It's tough, and it's not necessarily New York's fault. I would personally blame ExxonMobil.
Sure.
And the global warming problem. But yeah, there's not enough of that like 48 degrees.
Yeah.
Like that's, you are either, I'm finding, getting like it's 36, so you got to wear your warmest jacket, or it's 52 and you need to wear like a hoodie with a jean jacket over it or something. Like it's just, and I even bought a perfect like mid to high 40s jacket this season in prep for it. I got like a nice wool chore coat and I was like, yes, this is going to hit that mid to high 40s that I don't have because I have my super heavy poof jacket and then I have like other sweaters, and I've worn it once. It's tough. It's tough.
I would even say the poof jacket, I want to be able to Actually, this actually changes my answer. It's the poof jacket. The poof jacket, I want to be able to transform into a smaller item.
That's good. That's good because it's hard when you like get to a place like a restaurant or a movie theater or something where it takes up a lot of room. You can't smoosh it into a bag.
And when you get on the subway and then the subway is super hot and you have to take off your poof jacket, and then it's just like taking up all this room. Exactly. So I think a poof jacket, and I would go down to a keychain that looks like a tiny poof jacket.
That's great. That's really good. That's a really good answer. You found it. Perfect.
I did it. We did it.
Now we can get into these 3 chapters where we last left our heroes. They had just gotten away from some wreckage of a train and flying griffins, and they were hiding under a giant. Whole wild time. So chapter 40 is called Percy. We'll retitle it, obviously. And it begins with, quote, "They walked over land for about an hour, keeping the train tracks in sight, but staying in the cover of the trees as much as possible." Which, it's the rare non-banger opening line sentence, more of the continuing straight off of an action scene chapter. Sure, we roll with it.
Right.
They are passed by a helicopter once, and they hear 2 griffin screeches, but that's it. No real danger once they begin this walking adventure. Percy's guess is that it's midnight when the sun finally sets. It's cold, the stars are bright, the northern lights show, and Rick describes them as reminding Percy of his mom putting the gas stove on low, meaning Rick Riordan has never seen the northern lights. What is this description?
Okay, I have never seen the northern lights, so I was like, yeah, that's probably what that looks like, Rick.
I have seen them twice. Not to brag. Humble brag. I lived in Europe for 6 months, did a trip to Norway, and then on tour up, we did a trip up to the Laplands of Finland and saw them. And maybe I didn't see the correct northern lights, but first off, the northern lights at least what I've seen, more green than blue.
Okay, right.
At least the ones I saw. And maybe I didn't see like super strong ones. Both times I saw it, it was on days where people in the area said, oh, they may not be out tonight. They might not be particularly strong. It's kind of a cloudy day. And to me, it was just kind of like streaks in the sky. The first time I saw them in Norway, it was one of those like you couldn't even really see the movement that much. But like if you looked up and then you looked down and then you looked up, you'd be like, that's a different shape than it was. So like very slow moving.
Okay.
But then when I saw them in Finland, I could like actively see them like showing up and disappearing. But it was more of just kind of like streaks in the sky. I wouldn't say that it looked like flames on a burner. Maybe Sally's got a super weird stove.
And that's how we find out that Sally's got a super weird stove. Okay.
Super weird stove. Hazel points out some bears along the walk, but she assures the group that they will pay them no mind as long as they give them a wide berth.
That's not me. I would be freaking out about the bears.
The problem, and I feel like when you go hiking in Alaska, they give you a pamphlet that tells you to remind you, but I personally get so worried with bears on hikes because the black bear approach and the brown bear approach are just complete opposites. Like one is like, be all loud and put your jacket over your head and be big and yell. And then the other one's like, pretend you are dead and don't move. And that's just really hard because you could be super wrong if you flip it. It could be super duper wrong.
But also, when I panic, my brain, I can't think of anything, right? So they're like, look, it's a bear. Remember what to do about the bear. And my brain is like, I don't even know what my name is. I couldn't tell you what to do about this bear.
Now, I did Google it because I figured let's use this as a teaching moment for people listening.
Right.
The official National Park Service website, which hopefully is still good because they are deleting other things off the National Park Service website. So hopefully, I think this is one of the ones I got untouched because it says if a black bear charges and attacks you, then in all caps, fight back with everything you have. Do not play dead. Direct punches and kicks at the bear's face and use any weapon like rocks, branches, or bear spray to defend yourself. If a grizzly/brown bear charges at you and attacks you, and then again in all caps, play dead.
Okay. Yes, those are opposite reactions.
Quite opposite. Now, I did start to type black bear versus brown bear strategy. When I hit the S, the autofill had saying. So now I've clicked saying, and there's a common saying, quote, if it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. And that's actually a really great saying. Like, that is not convoluted at all. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. Love to rhyme.
It's like I will learn best by songs. So like, yeah.
Yeah, theater kid. You learn best by songs.
Wait, what? Me?
Da, 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 da.
Exactly, yeah.
Percy thinks about all the wild places that he has been and how none of them have left him speechless like Alaska. He sees why this land is not controlled by the gods. It's just too rough and untamed out here. Percy wonders if Gia wants the whole world to be like this, and then he wonders if that would be so bad, which I thought was an interesting thought for him to have. I don't really know what that's
he's having kind of a defeatist attitude right now, TBH. He's not feeling feisty right now.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, would it really be that? Actually, yeah. Actually, yeah, it would be.
Yeah, he does immediately think this. But also, he has had a really rough run-in with the gods. So maybe there is a little bit to him of like, maybe a change in leadership would be nice.
Right.
But yes, as you said, Percy brushes that aside immediately, reminding himself that Gia is not the Mother Earth that children's cartoons make her out to be. And then I wrote my notes, yeah, she's the evil villain that this young adult book makes her out to be. We are not a children's program here at the Heroes of Olympus series. I keep wanting to call it Percy Jackson and but I get like, it's not technically the Heroes of Olympus and the Son of Neptune, right? Is it just the Son of Neptune?
Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, right?
Because oh, man. Well, like, are the other ones technically all called Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse? It's just the Titan's Curse,
I think.
But is the first one called Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief? Or no, or am I too Harry Potter brained?
I think you're too Harry Potter brained. I think they're just called the names.
But all the other ones are straight up like in the Harry Potter world. That is Harry Potter and the every single time.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I wonder, though, is it like that with all the like brand synergy? Are books like that where you like put the thing before in the colon? Oh my gosh, so many things.
I can see that you're Googling.
I'm about to. Let's see. Well, I have my copy of The Lightning Thief. Well, yeah, okay, so no, it's just The Lightning Thief. And then on the side of the cover, it says Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So in both cases, it's the series title, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Heroes of Olympus, and then The Lightning Thief, The Son of Neptune. But in Harry Potter, it's straight up like...
Harry Potter and the... Yeah.
What a self-absorbed piece of crap. What a narcissist.
Got him.
Make sure my name is the first two words.
Actually, it is about me.
We got to look at our SEO so people find this.
SEO.
The SEO is what, like, I think I'm one of the few Percy Jackson podcasts that doesn't end with the official title being like : a Percy Jackson podcast. Cause I'm like, they'll figure it out.
Right. It took like a whole year of convincing before I was like, fanatical fiction, where to find them, : a Harry Potter fanfiction podcast.
Oh, you did it. You did add the colon.
Yeah, we added it after like a year.
I guess with Potterless, I had Potter in it, so it shouldn't be that hard to figure it out. The Newest Olympian, I did get emailed once by a bobsled person, like a retired bobsledder, trying to like do a press tour for a book they wrote. And I did just reply like, my podcast is not subject relevant, but I would love to talk to this person.
Do you want to just chat?
Just want to just
grab
riff it up for 30 minutes? Yeah. So like when you sled,
Yeah.
do you sing the Cool Running song in your head?
Yeah. You can ask that person who their godly parent is.
Yeah. I'll just do like the beginning. And they'll be like, all right, normally this is the part where we're talking about the book. So you can go now. This has been a good 5 minutes. Anyway, Percy Jackson. They come across a tiny town with a sign that identifies the town as Moose Pass, which rules. And then there's an actual moose next to this sign, which rules even harder.
Scarier than a bear.
Oh, you think a moose is scarier than a bear?
Those are big. Those are really big.
I guess I've never seen one in person, but I have heard they're really big. But like, I don't know. They feel... can moose get agitated?
Yeah, like moose are like very dangerous. Moose are very dangerous. Listen, Alaska's not for me, is what I'm trying to say, I think.
Don't need it. Don't need it.
Not for me personally.
Everything in the town is closed, and they notice that there is a gas station, and there is a hand-painted sign, and it says, Moose Pass Gas. That rules the hardest. Ooh. That's so good. Shout out to Uncle Rick doing all of this for this one joke. Yep. Absolutely worth it. I didn't see it coming. Moose Pass Gas. It's really
pretty good.
It's really good. It's really good.
I read it and I was like, Mike's gonna love this.
I look right up my alley. It's good. It's like, you gotta hand it to him. You gotta hand it to him. You didn't see it coming. It's a bad pun, but you didn't see it coming.
I didn't.
So they all sit at a picnic table outside to rest and eat snacks. Hazel immediately does the put her hands crossed, put her head down, sleep on the table thing. My go-to move. I'm a tray table sleeper on airplanes and trains. Wow. So this is a big move. Oh, are you not good at I'm so good at it.
I wish I could.
It's really nice. I'm like frustratingly too good at it. Like when Kelly and I are on a plane with the baby and I need to, or at least I'd be more helpful if I was awake and stuff, because Kelly usually has the baby strapped to her because it's easier nursing purposes as well. But like, I'll just, even if I'm not like head down, I'll just kind of like sleep sitting up. I'm really good at I'm arguably too good at it. Another humble brag. The theme of this episode. I'm so good at sleeping on planes that sometimes when I want to stay awake, I just can't.
It's really hard.
It's so hard. I want to help out with the baby, but I'm so sleepy.
So hard.
Hazel's asleep. Frank asks Percy if he really meant it when he said he was proud to be related to him. Percy gives a great reply. Quote, well, let's see. You single-handedly took out 3 basilisks while I was sipping green tea and wheat germ. You held off an army of Laestrygonians so that our plane could take off in Vancouver. You saved my life by shooting down that griffin, and you gave up the last charge on your magic spear to help some defenseless mortals. You are, hands down, the nicest child of the war god I've ever met. Maybe the only nice one. So, what do you think? God, he's so good.
I love him.
He's so fantastic. And what I realized from this quote is that Percy has become the better version of the cool older brother trope that Luke was meant to be. This is what Luke was supposed to be to Percy. And now Percy is this to Frank and Hazel. And it's phenomenal. He is thriving in this role.
Oh my gosh. That's a great point.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good. Like, Luke set himself up for that, and then we never really got it.
Right.
So now for Percy to get to do it, man, Percy as mentor is very fun. It's really fun.
Luke set himself up for it as a lie. As a bold-faced lie.
I'm still not
still
over
mad
it,
about it.
And I never will be. It's so hard. And now I got to deal with TV show Luke, who's more likable and more complex.
I know.
Actually doing his backstory well. And then Charlie's really nice.
Yeah. That makes
worst.
it extra hard. Guys, it's so hard.
It's so hard. Frank has doubts because he was supposed to lead this quest. And I wrote in my notes, oh, right. I completely forgot about this.
Yeah.
But Frank feels like he's been carried by the other two this whole time. And I think saying that he's been carried is a bit of a stretch.
That's a stretch.
But I don't think it's a stretch to say that the other two have been more valuable. But I don't think it's so much more valuable that he is dead weight by any means. So I think this is a classic case of Frank being a little too hard on himself.
He's always too hard on himself. And like, teamwork makes the dream work.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have gotten to this point without Frank.
Correct. They need him for sure.
Yeah.
He's certainly contributing. Percy says that Frank's claim about being deadweight is false. Frank continues that he has powers that he cannot use, his spear is gone, and now he's low on arrows. And on top of all of that, he's scared. And Percy goes, it would be weirder if you were not scared. We're both scared. You should also be scared. This is scary.
Yeah. We just like frequently almost die.
Mm-hmm.
It's
just
by
like
the
every
hour
couple of
at
chapters.
this point. Yeah.
Frank continues that the Feast of Fortuna is this coming sundown since it's past midnight. He says that they have under 18 hours to get to Hubbard Glacier, defeat an unconquerable giant on his home turf, return to Camp Jupiter, and then win a battle against a huge army. Mm-hmm. Percy doesn't make things better, adding that once they free Thanatos, he might claim the lives of Frank and Hazel. So good job, Percy. Really making the vibe better here. Mm-hmm. Frank then looks at sleeping Hazel and tells Percy that he's already lost his mom and his grandma. He can't bear the thought of losing his best friend too. Very sweet. Very, very sweet.
Very sweet.
Percy thinks to how he lost his life for 8 months and how awful that was. Then he thinks about how he's never been so alone before. Then right now, he has no one besides these two, and he vows to not lose either of them. He doubles down to Frank that Frank is a leader and Hazel would agree with him, and he says that they both need Frank. Frank lowers his head in thought, but then he keeps lowering it until his head hits the picnic table and he begins to snore. And Percy mutters, another inspiring speech from Jackson. And he says, rest up, Frank, big day ahead.
Big 18 hours ahead. Not even a full day.
Yeah, what is
We're on
the
a
term
clock.
for day except for sleep? Because that's basically what they have ahead. As someone who is never getting more than 6 hours of sleep now that I've got a baby.
Right. Waking hours.
Mm-hmm.
Big waking hours ahead, says Percy
Big
Jackson.
waking hours ahead. So now it's the morning. The store is open. The owner was not expecting to find 3 sleeping teenagers outside his store, but when Percy explains that they came from the train wreck, he takes pity on them and gives them free breakfast. He calls a friend of his, an Inuit native with a cabin near Seward. They hop in his old pickup truck and make their way down. Along the drive, he tells Percy stories about Bear and Raven, the Inuit gods, and Percy thinks to himself that he hopes to never meet them because he doesn't need any more enemies. And that's fun that Percy's like, gosh, enough of the gods, please.
More?
I really don't need to deal with this.
I just learned about a whole host of new ones.
Yeah, I really don't need to deal with this. I was contacted by one of the listeners of TNO who grew up in Alaska. And I think that this character, when we get to meet them, they have not the most accurate portrayal of an Inuit.
Okay.
So I think I'll get into it in that episode more, but just let the record show. Someone has contacted me about it, and that will be a future discussion. But at least from this message, Rick may have missed some marks. I got to read their lovely detailed message that they sent me more thoroughly.
Good.
Just a heads up for throwing it out there.
Hey, it's Mike from the future here. At the time of recording, I couldn't have known this, but I don't think the next chapters are necessarily a better time for me to talk about the Alaska stuff, since I've already alluded to people reaching out about Alaska stuff. Let's just have a little break here as we talk about it. If you're wondering why the sound quality is bad, I'm recording this on my iPhone in a closet in Des Moines, where we're on tour and we're about to hit the road. And I just wanted to make sure we had this in for the episode. I had a lot of listeners reach out about their feelings about how Alaska is represented. And I got a really good email from a listener, Sam, that I think kind of checks all of the boxes. So most of this stuff has already taken place in the story. Some I think is yet to come. But here is what Sam said about the Alaska representation from a couple of different angles. I'll just read from their email. For the native culture, there's a mention of totem poles, which are a part of some Alaskan native cultures, mainly ones found in Southeast Alaska, but are not found nor made in the area that the books have them. The books also bring up a character who is an Alaskan native from the Inuit tribe. While it is possible that Inuit natives could be living in the area described, they are traditionally located on the northern slope of Alaska, the complete opposite side of the state, around 1,000 miles away. The area described has a higher concentration of the Alutiiq people, though because Alaska has a different system of tribal government than the rest of America, it is completely plausible that there could be Inuits in the region. They also mention a character telling stories about the Inuit gods. As I am not a member of the Inuit tribe, I cannot vouch for the validity of this characterization, but in my experience with other native Alaskan stories, the gods mentioned are more often characterized as spirits. This is an area in which someone with more experience with the Alaskan native culture of the region would most likely be able to provide more information, but this is what I gleaned while interacting with Alaskan native communities where I live. So thank you, Sam. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you have different opinions or thoughts, you are always welcome to email me at thenewsolympian@gmail.com. Always happy to learn more. But anyway, let's get back into the podcast.
So they're in the truck for a while. The truck breaks down a few miles outside of Seward because, of course, it does. The driver explains that this is a regular occurrence and says that they can wait for him to fix it, but the team decides just to walk since Seward is just a few miles out. By mid-morning, they're at the town, and Percy can see wharves extending out to a cruise ship, and he shudders because he remembers having bad experiences with cruise ships.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have had bad experiences with cruise ships, but his is particularly something.
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
I have never been on a cruise ship. I don't ever plan on doing a cruise ship. I could see myself doing riverboat cruises once I turn 60, as like the natural progression of white people who turn 60 is. My parents are going one soon. Shout out to Barb and Joel. But I could see doing that. That's the biggest I'll go, because those are just like juiced up ferries. I'm not getting on a proper cruise ship, because that is just a disease on not even wheels, a disease on the water.
Yeah.
Not about it.
Being on a boat in the middle of the ocean is actually my worst nightmare. So
It's like a hotel that floats. It's a flotel.
I
Not
just go
about
to a
it.
hotel. They have those on land.
Yeah. You know what can't happen? It breaks down and it's inescapable. Like,
Exactly.
you get out of it. Yeah, not a cruise guy. Not a cruise guy. Unless some cruise pays me lots of money to perform. Yeah, that'll
just
change it.
saying.
Like,
Yeah.
Joko Cruise comes calling. Sure, let's go, baby. I love cruises. I've always loved them. I've always loved cruises. So there's a road that curves around, but Percy channels Pythagoras and calls for the team to cut through the meadow. He steps onto some squishy ground, thinking nothing of it. There was some squishy ground before.
Sometimes the ground squishes.
Sometimes the ground squishes. They said that the ground was squishy when they were dealing with the griffins. And when that happened, I was a little worried because of Gia, but then nothing bad happened. So I was like, okay, fine. Which this perfectly tricked me, because he steps on squishy ground and I was like, it was squishy before. But then Hazel yells, Percy, no! And then narrator Percy says, quote, his next step went straight through the ground. He sank like a stone until the earth closed over his head and the earth swallowed him. So not ideal.
No.
Not what you want.
No.
Tough.
This is also my worst nightmare. Well, let's just make a list of things that are my worst nightmare.
Yeah, let's go.
Cruise ship.
Uh-huh.
Drowning in the soil.
Uh-huh.
Bears.
Okay.
Moose.
Okay. Yep. All canonical from this episode. I would also like to throw in, you say nice to meet you, and the person replies, we've already met.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I might take a moose.
Ooh. Even if it's true, don't tell me that. Or
Right.
tell me it eventually. Be a nice person. Don't hit me with that right away.
Well, actually,
You go, oh, hey. And then you go you just let me, come on. Come on.
I'd like to reiterate that Alaska is not for me, personally. No disrespect. I'm sure it's
Just
gorgeous.
not the state for you.
Not for me personally.
That's fine. Well, it's the end of chapter 40. I've retitled it Another Inspiring Speech from Jackson.
That's good.
What have you retitled chapter 40?
I retitled it Saved by Moose Pass Gas. Obviously, Mike.
Naturally. Very good. Very good. So chapter 41 is a Hazel chapter. We'll retitle it, though. And it opens with, "Your bow," Hazel shouted. There we go. Action-packed. Let's go. Very smart, because if I learned anything from quicksand class, which a lot of quicksand knowledge early in your schooling career that I've not had to use yet, you need something to pull out.
Right.
Get your belt, tie it around a tree, pull it out. That's what, So having Sturdy Frank grab a bow, that's a smart usage of the man.
That's what I learned from my quicksand class, which was The Princess Bride.
Ah, okay.
That's quicksand class.
It would just come up in like school. The worst case scenario book came out in like 4th grade. That was a big thing for me and my friends for whatever reason. Then they had the board game companion and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like it was on the brain. And there's some stand-up comedian that has a joke about like how you thought quicksand would be way more of a problem than it actually was.
Yeah, it would be everywhere, and it's actually like nowhere.
It also makes me think of, I feel like there's another stand-up comedian that makes fun of how like every children's book tells you all of the farm animals, and like I've really not needed to know that the goat says bah. Like I didn't really need to know that.
Yeah, I've actually not encountered a goat personally.
I'm also thinking about this with my nephew. He is 4.5, so naturally he has an encyclopedic knowledge about dinosaurs. That's very cool, but also not super practical. I hate to break it to you, kid.
Listen,
he's like throwing out, like obviously I know some, I know Stegosaurus, I know Brontosaurus, I know that kind of stuff. He's throwing out like things I've never heard of, and I'd be like, look, man, you're really not going to need to know this.
Listen, that prepares you for 2 jobs. 1, Jurassic Park.
Sure.
2, the writer and director of the next Jurassic Park film.
Yeah.
And those are the only jobs, I think.
Yeah.
Besides paleontologist.
Also,
but come on.
Here's my thought for paleontologist. Have we not found them all yet?
You're gonna get the longest email.
What's taking so long? Have we not? Like, come on.
Do we find them? They keep finding them. They keep finding more of them.
How? Come on. We haven't found them all yet. I guess if you go into like states where no one lives, let's keep getting bad emails. You go to Montana, you could find some.
Alaska?
I do know, at least from anecdotal knowledge, which is every time I post an announcement of live shows I'm doing, the comments are filled with people like, come to this city that's not listed, which like I get that instinct, but like I would instead enjoy if those comments were like, yay, instead of the comments being
right.
you come to Tulsa. But I have heard from enough people from Alaska that are like, oh man, it would be super cool if you could do a show in Alaska. And like, I agree. The problem,
because you can't, it's not easy to travel from Alaska to a place where you're doing a show.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I replied to someone recently with that, like, if life ever takes me to or near Alaska, I will try to make a show in Alaska happen. That would be very cool. But I am not of the fame where I can just like put a city on a map and go, like it's got to either, and especially now with a kid, like that's why all the shows have been mostly on the East Coast, because I can do the show and then take the Amtrak back first thing in the morning.
Right.
Now, maybe if you tell all your friends about the podcast and it becomes a giant mega thing, then I can start being like, all right, let's go, Montana.
Hey, I'm just saying, tell all your friends about the podcast.
I mean, that's really it. Like when it comes down to like where I'm picking to go to shows, I look at my download numbers and then I determine whether or not. And you'd be surprised at some cities with bigger populations not having as many downloads. Like Indianapolis, very big city. But I did that whole Midwest tour and like by downloads, like the numbers just aren't there. You know where the numbers are? Des Moines, Iowa. I'm so hyped for that show. It's nuts. Oh, the whole state's coming through. It's going to be great. And we are streaming that show. So come and get your tickets, whether you live in Iowa or you don't live in Iowa, at thenewsolympian.com/live. Unless this episode comes out after April 13th, then, sorry, buy the replay of the live show at thenewsolympian.com/live or /Patreon, depending on how late it is.
Come
through. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Hazel yells, "Your bow!" Yeah, we got one line in. We're doing great. She yells, "Your bow!"
We're doing good.
Hazel is kicking herself for not realizing that this soil is muskeg. Do you have experience with muskeg?
I do not have any experience with muskeg. Yeah, that's outside of my...
The internet tells me that muskeg is a term primarily used in Canada and Alaska. It refers to a type of peat-forming cold, wet, and acidic wetland, often characterized by sphagnum moss and scattered stunted trees like black spruce and tamarack. Oh, well, yeah, Hazel, if you see sphagnum moss... and black spruce and tamarack, obviously.
There's some muskeg around.
That's
clearly.
muskeg
and
territory.
Everyone knows that.
We all know this.
And everyone knows that.
What an idiot. I know you're 13, but come on.
It sounds like a fantasy novel. Like the town of muskeg.
Me, it's just making me think of that song Muskrat Love about Muskrat Susie and Muskrat Sam.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. So she is kicking herself, as she should be. Maybe in Alaska, that's like super duper common, and maybe she should be kicking herself.
And maybe she should be.
Like maybe this is the Alaska equivalent of like, oh yeah, if you're walking to New York, you got to look on the ground in case there's dog poop on the sidewalk because no one knows how to curb their dog. Like you gotta.
Exactly.
You gotta. So
I made that fatal mistake recently.
It's tough. I made that mistake recently with the stroller because it's hard. Like the stroller blocks more of the sidewalk, and I like rolled over some dog poop. Gosh.
It's so hard.
It's not though. Really Get it together, dog owners. The curbing your dog is so easy. You know what's not far from the sidewalk? The curb. It's right there.
Historically.
So close. So she is upset. But of course, now all of the warning signs from locals who talked to her over the years are rushing into her brain. Decomposed plants and Marcy silt create a surface that looks solid, but it's even worse than quicksand. That sucks. These holes can be up to 20 feet deep, which makes Hazel worry about the possibility of this sinkhole being deeper than the bow is long. Super scary. We don't want that.
No, bad.
She instructs Frank to not let go of his end of the bow. Then she grabs the other end of the bow and jumps in. I was not expecting that. I thought they were going to kind of stick it in and hope Percy grabs it, but she blue skidoos into the muskeg.
Well, it could be as much as 20 feet deep.
Right.
So she's got to add her body length to this bow situation.
Right. I was worried, and then I remembered, oh, yeah, her dad is Pluto, so she should be good with underground, right? Like, if anyone was to do okay with this, it would be Hazel.
Right.
She immediately then becomes trapped in a flashback, which at first confused me, and then I remembered Gia. And that enrages Hazel because Ella told her that she was done with blackouts. And then she hears Gia's voice in her head say, "This is not one of your blackouts. This is a gift from me." And that's not great. You don't want a gift from the evil villain. Usually they use the word gift loosely.
Yeah, it's not a gift. It's for sure not a gift.
Not a gift. Hazel is back in New Orleans. Her and her mom are eating lunch in the park near their apartment. They're having a little picnic on the ground. Very cute. Hazel instantly recalls this day. It was a day that she actually had in the past. She was 7 years old, and it was right after the first sale of one of Hazel's precious stones. Neither of them knew about the curse yet. Queen Marie is buzzing. She bought orange juice for Hazel and champagne for herself, so she got the old deconstructed mimosa. And she also bought chocolate beignets. I have had beignets. I have not had chocolate beignets. I do know they are a thing. Have you ever had chocolate beignets?
No, I usually just go with the regular old powdered sugar scenario.
Yeah. I have also only ever had the regular ones because I either had them ordered for me, and then the only other time I ordered them myself, I went to Cafe Du Monde. I was like, all right, I should get like the classic ones. So the chocolate does sound interesting, but I did very much enjoy the standard issue.
I am cataloging that away for future beignet eating experience, for sure.
Correct. She also bought Hazel new crayons and a paper pad to draw on, and around them, the city is prepping for Mardi Gras, and this was the happiest moment of Hazel's life. Her mom then goes, quote, "You could stay here," which means it's not her mom, it's Gia. And Hazel, as the narrator explains, that her eyes are blank white, tough vibe, and her voice is Gia's. Hazel knows that this is a bunch of baloney. She tries to get up, but the soft grass makes her lethargic. The smell of beignets is intoxicating. And I mean, yeah, have you ever smelled those things? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I'm really tempted by the beignets to hang around, honestly.
I'll save the world later. I don't want to stay here forever, but I'll at least finish the
Can I get one?
beignets. Can I at least? I don't want them to go to waste.
One beignet. Yeah.
One? Come on. You mean 5? When we did order them, because like I think when you order them, like at least at Cafe du Monde, an order is like 3.
Right.
So I think like a normal human is going to eat 3. And when we went, it was me, my dad, my mom, and Kelly, and the baby, but she was too young to be in beignet territory. She was kind of like a one food track sort of lady, really into breast milk and nothing else.
Right.
But when we ordered, we were doing the math, and my dad and I were like, I think we're each going to eat 6. And my mom was like, really? And me and my dad in unison were like, yes. Yeah. We put those down.
For sure.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. So, intoxicating smell of the beignets. Hazel could almost imagine a bright future in New Orleans, beginning with Mardi Gras. And then Gia, through Marie, asks, what is real? Is your second life real, Hazel? You're supposed to be dead. And of course, once I read the line, you're supposed to be dead, I can only think of Yzma from Emperor's New Groove going, oh, no. You're supposed to be dead.
A llama.
Incredible.
Oh no.
Gia continues, is it real that you're sinking into a bog, suffocating? And yes, that feels super real, especially when you put it that way.
Oh, suffocating? Yeah, that is real. That
sounds super real and not good. She, Hazel, screams, let me help my friend, and tries to snap out of it, but she can feel her clutch on the bow releasing. The smell of fresh flowers is overpowering. And Gia, version of her mom, offers her a beignet. Hazel reminds herself that this isn't her mom, but it is still a beignet.
Yeah, you could, I mean, a bite?
Yeah, take it and then like angrily bite it, and then
nibble?
You can still like yell at her with some food in your mouth. Let me save my friend. Like you can still just quickly nom, and then go.
Right.
Gia goes on about how Hazel wants her old life back, and she can give it to her. She can grow up in New Orleans with an adoring mother, free from the burdens of her curse. She can be with Sammy. And Hazel yells that this is an illusion, and Gia goes, "You're an illusion." Hazel Levesque. Sick comeback, Gia.
This is like really good. What a burn. Wow.
She goes on that Hazel was only brought back because the gods have a task for her. She admits that she used Hazel, but at least she didn't use her and lie about it like Nico did. She concludes by saying that Hazel should be thankful that she captured him. And obviously this concerns Hazel, and she asks, what do you mean? And Gia, as Marie, smiles and says Nico was foolish to search for the doors. She does not go into more detail, which frustrates me, but delights Chiron. She says it is not Hazel's or the reader's concern. What should be her concern is that once they free Thanatos, she will be returned to the underworld, and her friends won't stop that from happening. She asks if true friends would allow that. And Hazel begins to cry because she didn't like dying the first time, and she would prefer not to have to go through it a second time, which seems legitimate.
Fair point. You cannot, this lady, she's got the comebacks of like a elementary school playground.
Yeah. Not particularly strong bully work from Gia.
Yeah, truly. But maybe it's because she hasn't reawakened all of her powers yet. Or
that's
whatever.
her full form, is she's burning people left and right like she could be on an episode of Yo Mama hosted by Wilmer Valderrama on MTV2.
Sure. She's doing a full Comedy Central roast once she's come into her,
Be good.
into full power.
Gia feels emboldened by Hazel not wanting to die, saying that Hazel was meant to marry Sammy, and she asks if she knew what happened after she died. He relocated to Texas, he got married, he had a family, but he never forgot Hazel. And the what if plagued him until he died. And I hate a what if plaguing me. I really try to live my life checking out all the different boxes so that I don't have to live in what if town. So, for Sammy, that would suck. Like, young teen love, and then she just disappears all of a sudden and you have no idea what happened. Oh, that would be tough.
Yeah, but Gia is also full of it.
Oh.
You know, like you cannot trust one thing.
That's true.
That she says.
That's true.
She's trying to trick you.
That's very true. That's very true. It's very much like, recording this March 17, 2025, very Lumen coded. You can't trust anything that anyone from Lumen says.
Yeah, I've held back my Severance references so far in this episode.
Let them flow. I love that joke. It's perfect television.
Yes.
Hazel screams that Gia is the one responsible for their life together not panning out. Gia says, well, you can have it now, and says that Hazel will die anyway, so why not make it pleasant? She tells Hazel to forget saving Percy as long as he belongs to her, and the fact that she plans to keep him safe in the earth until she's ready to use him. And this is where I started to worry. The drowning of a son of Neptune, is this a loose usage of the word drowning? The possibility of drowning in a mudslide. And I never thought of it that way until that episode of Severance.
Yeah, for sure. And as we know, Severance probably making a lot of Percy Jackson direct callbacks. Yeah, definitely.
I think so. I think they're in between takes reading Son of Neptune.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken and John Turturro, they're going over.
Oh my gosh. Get me a Christopher Walken Percy Jackson audiobook. Stat.
Damn.
Get that on my desk in the morning.
Chris, come on the pod. Gia continues, you can have an entire life in your final moments. You can grow up, marry Sammy. All you have to do is let go. Not having this. Hazel tightens her grip on the bow and feels someone grab her ankles. She knows that it's Percy. Wouldn't it be weird if it wasn't?
Would be weird.
Someone else is down here. Grover, what are you doing here? Hazel stares down Gia and says, I'll never cooperate with you. Let us go. And this is the first time that I have seen an intense use of M-dash. Ooh. All caps M-dash used for emphasis. You see this with periods, but for M-dash? Come on.
Right. Wow. Literature.
The vision then fizzles out, and Hazel wiggles the bow, signaling to Frank to pull up, which he does. She opens her eyes and finds herself laying in the grass covered in mud with Percy at her side coughing up mud.
I'm now imagining the person that grabbed her ankles was, in fact, Wesley from The Princess Bride.
Okay. Yep. Great. Good. Frank rushes over and starts cleaning them up. He tells them that they were down there for quite a while, says please don't ever do that again. He hugs Hazel and gives her a hug so tight that she struggles to breathe, so he releases her and apologizes. He brings the other two to the side of the road, and Frank, you just talked about being carried by the other team. Who's carrying who now, huh? Come on, bud.
Right.
You're doing great.
You're doing great. Yeah.
Hazel explains every part of the vision except for Sammy because she just still can't do it yet.
Yeah.
Percy thanks Hazel for saving him and vows that they'll figure out what happened to Nico. Hazel's worried that Gia let them go too easily. Percy wonders if she still wants them as pawns, and she just wanted to get in their heads a little bit. Hazel says that she knew exactly what to say to get to her. Frank puts his jacket around her, very cute, and reminds her that this life that she has is real and they will fight to prevent her from dying again. So immediately thwarting what Gia said about them not stopping her from going back to the underworld.
Right.
Narrator Hazel then says, quote, he sounded so determined. Hazel didn't want to argue, but she didn't see how Frank could stop death. She pressed her coat pocket where Frank's half-burned firewood was still securely wrapped. She wondered what would have happened to him if she'd sunk in the mud forever. Maybe that would have saved him. Fire couldn't have gotten to the wood down there. And now I'm worried because I was already not feeling super great about my boy Frank's chances of making it out of this series. This opens a new possibility where Hazel sacrifices herself, does this move to keep the wood safe, and then he can't die. But then he does have the prophecy that he's going to die clutching the wood. I don't know. I am just worried now about Hazel. I don't feel good about one of the two of them making it out of this series. It's not looking great. Not looking great. Trapdoor staying intact. Narrator Hazel then says, quote, she would have made any sacrifice to keep Frank safe. Perhaps she hadn't always felt that strongly, but Frank had trusted her with his life. He believed in her. She couldn't bear the thought of any harm coming to him. Love this. They're so cute. I love it.
Cute.
I also wrote in my notes, Frank and Hazel are really out here fighting to be the one most likely to die. So I'm worried about them.
Me?
No, I'm gonna die. Hazel looks at the rising sun and thinks, 1, time is running out, and 2, Hilla has fought Otrera twice already by now, assuming that she won. So She needs Hazel to free Thanatos.
There's a lot riding on the next roughly 16 hours.
It's tight. It's really
tight.
Hazel gets to her feet and says that they should get a wiggle on. Percy asks if there are any hotels nearby that would accept mud people so that they can clean off. Hazel says she's unsure, and the narrator Hazel says, quote, she looked at the town below and couldn't believe how much it had grown since 1942. The main harbor had moved east as the town had expanded. Most of the buildings were new to her, but the grid of downtown streets seemed familiar. She thought she recognized some warehouses along the shore. I might know a place we can freshen up. I did not guess what this place was at all.
Oh.
Pretty great lead into it, knowing what it is.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a little bit. I've retitled chapter 41, We Take a Mud Bath. What about you?
I retitled it, Gia Tempts Me with a Good Time.
That is what happens. That is what happens. All right, now we're going to take our mid-roll break, the Son of Fortune, where we talk about live shows, the new merchandise like the pins and the Tia notebooks and all this other stuff. And then we'll get back into this final chapter of this episode.
Hello and welcome to the Son of Fortune Des Moines edition, specifically the closet of the place we're staying in Des Moines before we get in a car and hit the road to do our live show in Chicago tonight edition. I've got a bunch of updates with the podcast and other things, so let's get into it. Speaking of getting in a car, I have a new podcast that I'm happy to announce, and it involves cars because it is a limited series podcast where I'm working my way through the Fast and Furious movies with my good friend and fellow podcaster, Eric Hamilton Schneider. It's a limited series podcast, meaning we made all the episodes and that's it. And you can listen to all of them at once. Rather than go the advertising route, we put it up on the TNO Patreon store. And for $5, you get all 13 episodes, and there's some bonus audio in there as well. And they're very well produced and high quality. Eric and I did all the work on the show. It's something that we've been working on for the past 2 years and we're really proud of. I had never watched any second of any Fast and Furious movie, and Eric is a big super fan. So naturally we called this podcast The Last and the Curious because I'm the last one to watch it. He's curious to revisit one of his favorite series. It's super fun, and you can listen to all of the episodes if you go to the shop on the TNO Patreon, or you can go to the URL that'll take you directly there, which is The Last and the Curious, but it's thelastandthecurio.us. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with it, and I think you will all enjoy it. Now, speaking of the tour and stuff, I want to thank everybody who has been coming to Midwest shows. I want to thank everyone who attended the stream show. You still can access your replay of the stream show through the end of the day on Sunday, the 20th. And even if you haven't gotten a ticket yet, you can go to thenewsolympian.com/live. You can get a replay link that will give you a URL that you can watch it with right away. And that'll be up through the end of day Sunday. It was super fun. We began Mark of Athena, and we may have gone past chapter 2, a little into chapter 3. And it was really fun. And the Q&A was really fun. And the video quality looked fantastic. So thanks to everyone who attended and everyone who is watching the replay after the fact, and everyone who was in the live chat. People were saying that the live chat was really fun. So just all around great vibes. As far as other updates stuff, we've got some more Midwest shows happening that you can still attend and get tickets to at thenewsolympian.com/live. If you're really quick about it, we've got Chicago tonight, April 14th. Then we've got Columbus, Ohio, April 16th, and Cleveland, Ohio, April 17th. Then later on, we're going to Montreal and Buffalo in May. And then I will be announcing new tour dates in a matter of weeks for stuff later in the year. Of course, if you always want to stay up to date with stuff that's going on, details about these shows, etc., follow the Newest Olympian on social media. I'm most active on Instagram, which is at Newest Olympian. Now, I mentioned the Patreon a couple times. I want to give a shout out to the folks who've joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Bethany, but spelled Knee, and Mary Keller. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Joanne Claudy, Tony Otters, Arian, and Cecilia Westcott. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hermes, the god of travelers, bless you that if you put a gas station into a maps-related app while you're on a road trip, that it does actually take you to a gas station and not an abandoned lot that once used to be a gas station. Now, if you're all caught up in the Newest Olympian and you're looking for some new podcasts to listen to, I highly recommend checking out The Last and the Curious, the thing I talked about earlier. Please check it out. We really want folks to start listening, especially since it's new and out there. So we're very proud of it. We're glad it's out in the world, and we hope people listen to it and let us know what they thought of it. But yes, head on over to thelastandthecurio.us or go to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon and go to the shop portion of the TNO Patreon. $5, you get all the episodes ad-free. Speaking of ad-free, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me. Others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Gabon, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in French, the official language. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the Newest Olympian.
And we're back. We're here to talk about chapter 42, which is called Hazel. It opens with, quote, "When they got into town, Hazel followed the same route she'd used 70 years ago, the last night of her life, when she'd come home from the hills and found her mother missing." And yeah, you are following that route, but then you are going somewhere else, right? So like, you're not 100% following the route. Yeah?
Right. Some of the route, not all of the route.
We will soon depart from the route to go to a different place. They pass a hotel and they consider making a pit stop, but they ultimately decide that it's not a good idea to, quote from the book, traipse into the lobby while covered in mud. Traipse!
Traipse.
Ooh.
Traipse is a great word.
It's a really good one. It is just means to walk or move wearily or reluctantly, but I hadn't thought about the word traipse in quite some time.
It's a good word.
I got to start traipsing more because, man.
I'm traipsing all about town.
It's just, I would hope I'm not. I don't want to be walking wearily. But, like, if I'm on low sleep and I'm traipsing over, like, I could traipse hither and thither.
I'm a traipser.
I don't want to be in a situation where I am traipsing, but if I do find myself where I'm feeling so down that I am traipsing, I can at least tell myself that I'm traipsing, and then I'll feel better because it's like, hey, at least I'm traipsing. And now we've said the word enough that it doesn't sound like a real word anymore.
Yeah.
Zone. So instead, they head to the shore, and surprisingly, Hazel's old home is still there, though it is in rough condition.
Mm-hmm.
Hazel instructs them to head in. Frank asks if it's safe. Hazel doesn't really answer. She just climbs inside an open window, and the boys follow. It's very dusty inside, and there's loads of greeting cards in storage boxes. Clearly, her place had been used for different storage, as we see, and Hazel thinks of it as a cruel joke with these greeting cards. It's cards for all of the holidays that she never had the chance to celebrate.
Sad.
Frank says that it's an improvement in terms of warmth, just being inside versus outside. He wishes that there was running water, and then he suggests that he could probably go clothes shopping since he's not as muddy as the others. Hazel's kind of only half paying attention because she's looking all over the house and, having flashbacks and all that kind of stuff.
Memory, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she, much like the Barenaked Ladies, they have broken to the old apartment. This is where they used to live. She goes to what was once her sleeping section, but it clearly has been used for storing gold prospecting supplies because there's a sign that says gold prospecting supplies. And to her surprise, many of her drawings and photos are still pinned to the wall. There's crayon drawings of New Orleans. There's a photo of her mom. There's a photo of Sammy. And of course, Frank followed Hazel over, and then he begins to ask who that is in the photo. But then he can tell that Hazel is crying, so he stops short. And instead, he just says that he knows this must be hard. He asks Hazel if she needs some time to herself. She says it's okay. Percy, normally very socially adept, comes over and he goes, "Oh, that woman looks just like you. Is that your mom? She looks really pretty." And then he goes to the other photo and goes, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
In Percy's defense, maybe he didn't see all of the stuff that Frank saw, but come on, my guy.
Yeah. Rick is really, at this point in the book, keeps being like, is she going to tell him who Sammy is? Nope. Is she going to do it? Nope.
And it's one of those things that I get. She's building it up in her head as this big deal. I feel like Frank's going to be super chill with it.
Right. It's not as she is making it a bigger deal than it is.
Right. But I get it. Now, narrator Hazel says, quote, "Hazel didn't understand why he, Percy, looked so spooked." And I was like, does Percy know Sammy? What's going on? She vaguely explains who Sammy is without getting into the full story, and Percy says that he has seen him before, which is very interesting. Hazel says that it's impossible because the photo's from 1941, so he's probably dead by now. And I was like, hey, I mean, maybe, but not 100%. Like, I guess this book would vaguely be in 2010. So if he was, a teenager in
preteen
1941?
Right.
Like he was born in 1925? Like he could just be a super old dude. He's not like guaranteed dead.
He's like probably dead. But also, Gia did just tell her that he was dead. But also, we can't trust anything that Gia says.
We can't trust anything because Gia works for Lumen. We can't, obviously.
Right.
Percy goes, "I guess, still," and he looks like he's still pondering. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what's going on here. Frank changes the subject by offering to buy food, clothes, and 100 wet wipes at the store that they pass down the road. Hazel covers up the photo of Sammy with the sign. She feels bad even just looking at it, given how sweet Frank is being. And then she tells Frank that would be great and calls him the best. I like that Hazel has such strong feelings for Frank that she's like, even looking at a photo of my ex-boyfriend is cheating.
It's a very like young person thing to think, you know, like as adults, we're like, it's fine. It's fine.
Frank heads out. Percy and Hazel then make camp. They make beds out of greeting cards. And at one point, narrator Hazel says that Percy, quote, stretched out on a bed of Merry Christmas 1982, which is a very fun way to write it, but also an unhinged decision by that greeting card company. Because what if you don't sell out of all of those cards? If you just make a card that says Merry Christmas, if you don't sell them all, you got more stock for next year. To put a number for the year on it is a poor business decision.
That is.
No wonder they went under.
Yeah. Every card in there has a year on it. It's all 1982.
Happy birthday, June 12th, 1986. Someone will buy it. Percy thanks Hazel for saving him, and he apologizes for not doing so earlier. Hazel thinks nothing of it, says that Percy would have done the same for her, and Percy is just like me. He says that when he was in the mud, he remembered the line from Ella and worried that the drowning son of Neptune was him. And now this has Hazel thinking about how a descendant of Neptune is supposed to save her. But now Frank is in the mix for that because he's technically related as well. I didn't think about that. So a lot of possibilities. Rick has done very well to make everything super duper vague.
It's almost like prophecies are like super nebulous and could apply to a whole bunch of people in a variety of different scenarios.
Yeah, and this is like the vaguest we've ever had. Like we are...
Because it's not complete.
Right. There is so many vague things happening. It is super duper up in the air, and it makes it very exciting. It makes it a very compelling book in a compelling series so far. Narrator Hazel then says, quote, she'd never felt more confused. And since she had spent her whole life confused, that was saying a lot. Hazel tells Percy that the prophecy may be incomplete and perhaps he will drown someone else. And Percy asks if she really thinks so. And I was like, oh my goodness, we've got Percy being vulnerable and unsure of himself.
Yeah.
A new side of Percy. And what's funny is the next line, narrator Hazel goes, quote, Hazel felt strange reassuring him. He was so much older and more in command. So she assures him that he'll make it home to see his girlfriend Annabeth. Percy assures her that she'll make it back as well.
It's so dangerous for so many people to be like, you're going to make it. No, you're going to make it. No, we're going to make it. We're all good. Like, whenever that happens in a book or anything, I'm always like, stop doing that.
Especially when they're demigods who famously usually don't make
it.
They usually don't.
Right.
Hazel says that she doesn't belong in this century and says Nico only brought her back so she could make up for her mistakes and perhaps get into Elysium this time. Percy says that she is destined for more. They are going to fight Gia together. Percy says he needs her by his side in the fight, and Frank needs her by his side in life because he's gaga over her. He ends this with, quote, this life is worth fighting for, Hazel. She asks him not to get her hopes up, and then Frank enters beaming. Success! He got new arrows, rations, and rope from a hunting store. He got 3 sets of new clothes, towels, soap, water, and wet wipes from a tourist store. And obviously it's no shower, but being clean has Hazel feeling a lot better.
I was disappointed that we didn't get, like, gas station or hunting store t-shirts with, like, funny sayings.
I really thought we were going to get that, kind of like when we had the Waterland stuff in book 1.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be some sort of Alaska branded things, but it wasn't described at all, and that's disappointing.
Fishing.
Yeah, some sort of I don't know, some sort of Alaska-based pun, something like I'll ask you a question, something, something. She's clean. She stops herself from feeling too good, though, as she thinks that today is her last day, so she can't get too comfortable. She puts the driftwood into her new coat pocket and vows to keep it safe no matter what. She says to the group that they must find a boat to Hubbard Glacier. She tries to put on a brave voice, but internally she is not excited about this. She wishes that Arion was here instead. She would much rather ride him for this journey. And she says, the narrator, that she has been internally calling out to him ever since Vancouver, just hoping that he will somehow know where to find them.
These kids just keep being like looking at each other in the eyes and being like, you're going to make it. And yeah, sure. Also, I'm going to make it. And then inside of their heads, they're like, I'm not going to make it, but I'm going to make sure that he makes it. And they're all thinking that same thing.
Frank then pats his stomach and says, quote, if we're going to battle to the death, I want lunch first. I found the perfect place. I love where Frank's head is at. This makes me very happy.
I love that they are never too busy to stop at a diner.
You need fuel.
And that's great energy. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
This kind of solves all of the problems that 24 had, where they never eat, they never poop, they never charge their phones, they never do any of the stuff. No, they stop for the food.
They do.
Yeah, 18 hours is short, but like, let's get some food in there, man.
If you don't eat in the full 18 hours, then how are you supposed to finish the quest?
Right. You got to look at the big picture, and you need the energy to last these 18 hours. So,
yeah, the big picture always includes all-day breakfast, is what I'm always saying. Yeah.
And the place that Frank has found does rip. It's an old railway car that has been converted into a diner, which
adorable.
Is super cool. So Frank and Percy go to order food. Hazel wanders down to the docks and asks some questions. And when I saw that, I was like, what? Is she just asking them out loud?
Yeah, just like, hey, have you guys seen like a giant?
But like, when I was reading this, like, who is she talking to? Like in my brain, they're ordering and then she leaves. And then I'm like, who are you talking to? But then it just then goes on in the narration, quote, when she came back, she needed cheering up. Even the cheeseburger and fries didn't do the trick. And I was like, what is going on? Thankfully, it gets answered. Hazel tells them that they're in trouble. She says that she tried to get a boat, but she miscalculated. And Frank is confused, saying there's no boats. And then Hazel says, oh, she can get a boat, but the glacier is farther than I thought. Quote, even at top speed, we couldn't get there until tomorrow morning. And then I was wondering, like, oh, the last time she was on a boat, there were like ravens that flew on her boat. I was wondering, like, is she trying to like channel the ravens? I was just so caught up with like, who is she talking to? What is going on? Percy thankfully suggests, well, I am the son of Neptune. You may have read the title of the book. I could probably make the boat go faster.
Really good with water.
But then Hazel says, even if you could, from what the captains tell me, it's treacherous. Quote, icebergs, mazes of channels to navigate. You'd have to know where you were going. I was like, oh, there's people at the docks. Yes. Was that ever established in the book? I didn't think so. I don't think the narration is like, they go to the thing and there's people there. I'm like reading it back. I was like, what the hell is going on? Who is she talking to?
The boat people.
The boat people who definitely were there. Like, narrator Hazel, let us know. I guess we're just supposed to assume that there's people there. But
captains?
The captains? Of course there's captains there. They're always at railways that have been converted into diners. That's where captains go. Frank asks, okay, could we take a plane? And Hazel says that she also asked the captains about this.
Pilots.
They're also hanging out.
They're also there.
The captains told her that they could try, but it's a very tiny airfield. You'd have to charter a plane multiple weeks in advance, so it wouldn't work. So now they're eating in silence. Hazel does let us know that the cheeseburger is very tasty, but she can't really focus on it. She's just had a couple of bites when my thought does come back to me. A raven settles on the telephone pole above and croaks. Mm-hmm. Hazel shivers. She's afraid that it's going to talk to her like the ravens from before when they were like, the last night, tonight. And she wonders if these ravens always show up to children of Pluto when they're about to die, which is a grim thought, but also like not impossible. Like it could be a thing.
You should be worried about that, in fact.
Yes. She hopes that Nico's still alive. She hopes that what Gia was saying was just a lie, but she's got a bad feeling that Gia is telling the truth because Nico had told her that he was going to search for the doors of death from the other side. And now she's worrying, oh my gosh, if Gia has captured him, I'm losing the only family I've got. So she is staring at the cheeseburger and the raven's cawing changes to a yelp. Frank gets up so fast that he almost knocks over the picnic table. Percy draws his sword. Hazel looks where they're looking. And on top of the pole where the raven was, there is a big, ugly griffin just glaring at them. And it burps, and raven feathers emit from its beak. Oh, like it's no pigeon,
rude.
So it's not the end of the world, but like, no.
Rude. That's really rude.
So rude.
They were so preoccupied by being swallowed by the earth, which is a bummer, that they forgot that they're also being chased by griffins, and a lot of them.
And in their defense, I also forgot about this. I thought griffins were off the table. We heard 2 griffin shrieks in the distance, but they sounded far away, and they're gone. They're over. Hazel unsheaths her spatha. Frank notches an arrow, and he aims, but then the griffin shrieks very loudly. The sound echoes off the mountain. Frank flinches, and he misses his shot. Percy thinks, uh-oh, this feels like a call for reinforcements, so he says, let's all get out of here.
He's like, yes, that classic griffin call for reinforcements.
Well, what are griffins? Aren't they... They're not any part horse where Percy could understand it. They're like lion-y, panther. These ones are described as being like panther-y winged things. So
exactly.
Yeah, they don't really have a plan. They just head to the docks, and the griffin is chasing after them. Percy slashes at it with a riptide. The griffin dodges it. They go to the nearest pier. They go all the way to the end. The griffin is swooping after them with its claws extended. Hazel raises her sword, but there is an icy wall of water that slams sideways into the griffin, and it knocks it into the bay. The griffin squawks and flaps its wings, and I was like, oh, I don't think that this is Percy. This feels like this is going to be someone else. Frank goes, oh, nice one, Percy. It completely makes sense that Frank would think it's Percy, but just based on the narration, I was like, I think this is somebody else. And Percy then goes, yeah, didn't know if I could do that in Alaska. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess it was Percy. I was thinking like, oh, we're getting a new friend. Like, I thought someone else. Like, I really thought when Frank goes, nice one, Percy was going to go, that wasn't me. And then it's like somebody else. But
that would be classic. That would have been classic.
That's what I was thinking was going to happen. But Percy reveals that it was him. That's good news. But he does say that there is bad news. And he points out about a mile away over the mountains, there's a black cloud just swirling. And it's a black cloud made up of griffins. So not a regular cloud. It's a metaphorical cloud. And they're looking at how many are in there. And they're thinking, we can't do this. This is not going to work. And a boat is not going to get us out of here fast enough. Frank notches an arrow and he says, quote, not going down without a fight. And Percy raises Riptide and says, I'm with you. Action heroes. I love it. Hazel then hears a sound in the distance, and it sounds like the whinnying of a horse. It's like, Arion.
Yes,
but a little part of me was like, Blackjack, maybe? Could it be? But she calls for Arion, and then, quote, a tan blur came ripping down the street and onto the pier. The stallion materialized right behind the griffin, brought down his front hooves, and smashed the monster to dust. Hazel is so stoked, commends Arion for this fantastic move. Frank, in classic Frank fashion, goes, how? And Hazel says, quote, he followed me because he's the best horse ever. Another use of M- for emphasis. We've gathered that she loves an M-. Calls for everyone to get on. Percy goes, all 3 of us? Can you really handle this? And then Arion whinnies indignantly, and Percy goes, all right, no need to be rude. Let's go. I want to know exactly what he said.
I love it. I constantly forget that Percy can talk to horses. And then it just comes up in the most, like, the hilarious random little moments. And it surprises me every time, and I love it every time.
It's so good. It's so good. So they get on. Hazel's in the front. Frank and Percy are in the back. Frank wraps his arms around her waist. I was like, of course. Because when they said the back, I was like, but who's in the middle seat? And yep, it is Frank. So he's got his arms around her waist. And Hazel thought that if this was going to be her last day on Earth, it wasn't a bad way to go out. So she calls for Arion to go to Hubbard Glacier. And then the final line of this chapter is, quote, the horse shot across the water, his hooves turning the top of the sea to steam. And that is the end of chapter 42.
That's a good horse.
Do you have a retitling of chapter 42?
My retitling is I officially become a horse girl.
That's really good. That's really good. That's really good. My retitling is Our Lunch is Stopped Short.
Ooh,
so just an ominous.
Yes.
What happened? What's going on? What could do it?
Yes.
But yeah, this has kind of, it's like completed her horse girl arc. It's pretty great. I'm excited that she's back in the mix. So that is the end of this chapter. That's the end of this episode. Sequoia, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thanks for listening. But Sequoia, you want to maybe, if people want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff? What's something that they can maybe find in the I don't know, how far future?
Yeah, in the sort of nebulous future. You can find me on the podcast Professional Talkers, a show that I make with my good friend, Mike Schubert.
Oh my God,
you
I
might
love
have
that
heard
guy.
of him.
That guy's great. He's so humble, too.
Yeah, that, Nebulous, it's either out by now, or you can go over to patreon.com/professional talkers and
I feel pretty good that it's not out by now. Because I think this episode's coming out in matters of weeks, so I don't think it's going to be out by now.
You can go over to patreon.com/professional talkers to follow for free, and then you will get the email updates when we have more information about official releases. But it is a show, it's a comedy podcast where we talk about advice. We give advice about having awkward conversations.
Mm-hmm. So yes, that Patreon is fully free right now. It's just like updates about what's going on. We've recorded a few episodes. We're working on a bunch of stuff behind the scenes to get it all going. But yes, it's a comedy advice show where we, as people who've had many, many conversations that are recorded and broadcast for the world to listen to and ridicule us for, we're helping people navigate through awkward conversations. So that is Professional Talkers. You can catch it at some point in time, or if you're listening to this episode and things have passed and, it's months and months later, search for it and maybe you'll find it. But if people want to find you doing other stuff, do you want to give a shout out to any of your other things you've got, like But Make It Scary?
Yeah, by the time this comes out, my other shows are ended, but they have fantastic back catalogs, long, fantastic back catalogs. You can find But Make It Scary, a dark comedy show that takes romantic movies and rewrites them as horror films. That's But Make It Scary. Or Fanatical Fix, which, as I said earlier, Fanatical Fix and Where to Find Them, a Harry Potter fanfiction podcast. You can find that wherever pods are cast, and there's a few hundred episodes of that.
Beautiful. Well, Sequoia, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you for listening. Until next time, as we see how this horse adventure goes, until then, hope to see you later. Hello. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you really enjoy the show and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things that you can do. First, you can go to patreon.com/The Newest Olympian, and you can get access to all sorts of bonus content that I post on a very regular basis. You also can find us and get involved in the community on social media. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Blue Sky, we've got a Twitter, we've got a Facebook, we've got a subreddit, we've got a Discord that's available to all patrons. If you want to support the show, you can get merch at thenewsolympian.com/merch. You can see live shows at thenewsolympian.com/live, and you can check out the aforementioned Patreon. And speaking of, I want to give a shout out to our highest tier, the Ultra God tier patrons who are helping to produce this show with their financial support. So shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reedy, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spursboy, A Cup of Solace, Bradamus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jacked Son, Han Haley Hingleheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, Jordan Ray, Nico's Black Vespa, and Zayden Wintergate. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just spreading the show via word of mouth is huge. You can tell someone directly who you think would like the show. You could post about it on social media. You could leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really do help, and I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past or will do so in the future.
But I'm just thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we'll be joined by Joel Rochester to break down chapters 43 through 45 of The Son of Neptune. But until then, I'll see you later. Hello, it's me, ASMR Mikey. Let's do some in the room, and by room I mean the closet of the place we're staying in Des Moines ASMR. Here's me tapping on the walls, and here's me rubbing the carpet. Thank you so much for listening.